Hello and welcome to Saints Live, the final whistle. I'm Steve Forbes.
I'm Kenzie Benali.
Well, it's always tough to start a show off after a match like today with Southampton losing 6-0 at home to Chelsea. So we'll skip the superlatives of describing the game and dive straight into it with former Saints captain Dean Hammond and NBC's lead soccer writer Joe Prince-Wright. Dean, 4-0 down at half-time. What are your general thoughts on that first half?
Difficult, Steve. It's a performance that we probably didn't expect from Southampton. Credit to Chelsea, they've responded very, very well and were clinical in front of goal, created lots of chances and took the game to Southampton really. Tactically, I think Tuchel got it right with the shape he played. I thought the wing-backs of Chelsea caused Southampton lots and lots of problems. The midfield runners and their movement caused Southampton lots of problems. And individual errors for the goals. I think if the players look at it and they analyse it, there'll be some disappointment there. Some brilliance from Chelsea. For the first goal, Mason Mount's vision for Alonso is fantastic. But again, Southampton have called out a little bit of shape. But me and Joe were just talking off air. Results like this can happen. You're playing against Chelsea, who are European champions, are still in the Champions League. They're a top team, and they perform very, very well. But Southampton will be disappointed. That there maybe just wasn't the normal amount of energy from the players, and there looked like there was a little bit of acceptance in that first half. The change of shape helped a little bit, but not too much. The game was already away from Southampton, so a bad day at the office for the players, and it's only because Southampton have performed so well against the so-called bigger teams this year that maybe we expected a little bit more. But being realistic. Joe made a great point off air that if you look at the amount of money Chelsea can spend and the players they've got and their squad they've got, it's not a surprise really. So the players will be disappointed, but the first half, the game was one for Chelsea and it could have been a lot more, was the only probably positive in that first half.
Well, yeah, Joe, on that, Dean's absolutely right. It could have been much worse, despite being a dismal first 45 minutes. I mean, Fraser Forster, kept a few goals out, certainly.
Yeah, he was Saints' best player by a country mile, and you don't say that often when a team loses 6-0 that their goalkeeper's man the match, but it was, some really good saves, one across the goal and then one when Timo Werner went through and he came off his line and made himself big, and even the other goals in the second half for Forster as well, when he made the initial save and the ball just dropped straight to a Chelsea player, whether, just bad luck or Saints' defenders not tracking back. So I think, like you said, Kenzie, he had a really good game and kept the score down and kept, some kind of pride in the first half. But it really was outrageous, the amount of shots he was facing. I mean, when you look at the stats after the game, it kind of just sums it up, right? 24 shots for Chelsea, 14 on target, 6 goals. It was just, Dean mentioned it there, a bit of a perfect storm of Southampton having a lot of mistakes individually and having a real off day, and then Chelsea come flying out the traps after those defeats to Brentford and Real Madrid. We said before there was going to be reaction. Thomas Tuchel wanted a reaction, and my word, did he get it. So Saints were on the end of a bit of a hide in there, and it could have been worse if it wasn't for Fraser Forster.
Dean, you just said the game had kind of gone from Southampton already in the first half. Ralph did try and, rescue something, save face by making a swap, Oriol Romeu for Jan Valery and putting 3 centre-backs on. Could you understand the thinking behind that?
I think at that point, potentially it was damage limitation, if I'm totally honest. And I think the change of shape was probably the right thing to do. Chelsea were just causing Southampton too many problems in the wide areas with the wing backs and midfield players. The movement from Mason Mount was very difficult for the midfield players and the centre half. He was getting in between that space and it was difficult and being very, very creative. So a change of shape helped, probably just stuttered Chelsea's momentum for a period. But they were still good and they still caused Southampton problems. So it was just, I think today Southampton just lacked doing the basics well enough, in terms of keeping possession, being disciplined, staying with your runners, being organised, communication between the players, the things that you always have to do, whatever team you're playing against. And it just wasn't there for Southampton today. It just didn't quite click, and it was unfortunate it happened on a day where you're playing against a top-class team in Chelsea who are reacting to 2 disappointing results themselves. But we can see last weekend Chelsea lost 4-1 to Brentford. So the Premier League, that's why it's the best league in the world. It's so exciting, and you can get results like this. So the change of shape was probably a good decision from the manager, but I don't think it changed the game too much. And Southampton really struggled to get any foothold of possession or come back into the game today.
Yeah, Joe, I think we all hoped that the goals would stop flowing going into the second half, but 2 goals after the interval, and it just felt like Chelsea always had players there to follow up for the rebounds.
Yeah, it was really weird, Kenzie. It's obviously the quality of Chelsea's players, I think, to read the situations and just kind of attack the areas where they thought the rebound was going to drop to. Sometimes, Dean will tell you in football, that just happens. You get a day when the ball hits the post, it comes straight back to one of your players to knock it in, or the goalie makes a good save, and then just the rebound bobbles the right way. And yeah, it was a combination of that. But I have to say, as a Southampton fan, it was a bit disappointing there at the start of the second half to not see a kind of reaction, any kind of someone rolling the sleeves up and just taking accountability for the situation. It was just wave after wave of Chelsea attack, and almost like some players were just switching off a little bit and just, I don't want to say throw the towel in, that's a bit too strong, but there was some real mental lapses there in the second half, which allowed Chelsea to get another couple of goals. And at 6-0, you thought, I'm not going to say what, the scoreline that we all know, but yeah, it was bad from a focus and a mentality standpoint. And I don't think the manager's going to be happy at all with that. I know the fans won't be happy at all, and the players won't be either. It's difficult when you're playing against that good of a side. And they do have a few lucky breaks, but then also they are rampant and fired up and want to prove a point. And Dean mentioned there, underlines the quality of Chelsea. And unfortunately, just kind of shows that when Saints do have good results against some of the big teams, just what a great achievement that is as well, because there is obviously a huge golfing class. And we saw that today across the whole 90 minutes.
Understandably, heads are going to be down in that changing room now, Dean, after the result. And I'm not sure what the biggest defeat you've been on the end of, but what can a result like that do to the confidence of the team, especially going into the closing stages of the season now?
I think the best thing to do, Steve, is probably not to overanalyze it too much, and understand that results like this can happen. But also, it's a test of your character, a test of your personality. And for the remainder of the season to not kind of lose the fact that Southampton have been excellent this year. And it would be great to finish the season strong. It really, really would, with, I think it's 7 games left. Almost maybe setting new targets now, new goals. What can we achieve as a team individually from now until the end of the season to keep the excitement, the enthusiasm going. So there will be some honest conversations, I'm sure, with it, whether that's happening in the dressing room now or that will happen tomorrow or come Monday when the players are back in the training ground. So look, it's a youngish squad. These are the moments what you learn from, but it is a test of your character, and it is pulling together. It's that togetherness, and we've expected a reaction from Chelsea today. And I'd expect a reaction from the players during the week at the training ground and next week against Arsenal. So you have to look forward now. It's difficult, but you do have to look forward as a player and accept it. There's no hiding away from it. Be truthful with yourself and say, look, we weren't good enough today. Chelsea were good, but we could have done better. Accept that, react, and move on to the next game.
From a fan's perspective then, Joe, does that result change your outlook on the season so far? Because we were enjoying a fantastic period around Christmas, but that's now 1 point from the last 5 matches, and of course such a heavy defeat today.
It's difficult, Kenzie, to stay positive right now in the aftermath of that, but Dean mentioned it there. It has been a really good season, and there's a very good young group of players there that for the next few seasons will only grow and get better, and they have had their moments. Perhaps that's part of a result like today as well, and maybe part of the recent run of results, just tiredness creeping in, and a lot of players maybe not used to this situation and being this hard throughout an entire 9 months of a Premier League campaign. I think as a Saints fan, right, it's disappointing, but perspective is key. We've been supporting the club when it's been down to the 3rd tier and a lot of bad things, and it might not have even been a club before. And again, they've come a long way in the last few years, established back in the Premier League. And now it's going to be really interesting for the next, 12, 18 months of the club with the new ownership coming in. And they're only just settling in and potentially new players and new funds being available. So yes, short term it's disappointing, but Dean mentioned it there. There's players there now that have to finish the season strong. My aim would be to get more points than they did last season. That shows you're improving and building on it. And it's a young team. And then there's opportunities there for players either to come in. The likes of Valerie and Smallbone did well today when they come on, I thought, especially Will Smallbone. And then also in the transfer market, Ralph Hasenhüttl will now use these final 7 games of the season to see where he really needs to strengthen. And he'll learn a lot from the next few weeks and see a reaction. But hopefully against Arsenal next week, we'll see a big reaction like Chelsea had today to their defeats. And Saints have to use them as the model to show how you can bounce back from a disappointing result like this.
Well, Arsenal are another team fighting for a top 4 position. They've not had the best of days today, losing at home 2-1 against Brighton, so probably a bit of a silver lining for you there, Dean. What's your thoughts ahead of next week here at St Mary's?
Well, again, it'll be a good fixture. It'll be a really good game and an opportunity for both teams to respond. So that's why I think it will be a good game. If you look at Arsenal, their form have dipped of late in the last 2 results. They've been way under par for what they've achieved this year. And they're still fighting for that 4th place, so it's a real good game. And for the Southampton players, it's what you want. It's another test against one of the big teams in this division, and you want to prove yourself. There'll be that added determination, I'm sure, from the players to show that today was a one-off and was a freak result, and they can improve against Arsenal. Arsenal are a good team, but you can see they're beatable, very, very beatable, and we know that Southampton are competitive against anyone in this division. I mean anyone at the top sides, not from today, but when we've played Manchester United, when we've played Man City, when we've played the big team, we give them a game when we cause them problems and we ask questions of them. So I'm sure the players will be very determined to get back to that level of performance next week.
Yeah, Joe, Arsenal are a rather inconsistent side at times, and can you see Southampton taking positives from that result that Brighton got at the Emirates today?
I think so, Steve. I am a little bit worried that that's obviously a shock defeat for Arsenal a little bit, so we may see another reaction from one of the big teams who need a win to finish in the top 4 late in the season. But Dee mentioned that they're very inconsistent. They haven't been in great form. And you look at some of the players they're missing, Kieran Tierney, Thomas Partey, some really big leaders on their team are out through injury. So it's not the worst time in the world to play them. And they are going to be desperate as well. So they may come out early and leave a few gaps. But maybe next weekend is the time for Saints to play a slightly more defensive lineup, even at home, and just try and let Arsenal come onto them and then pick them off on the break. But yeah, looking forward to being at St Mary's. And I have to say, special shout out to the Saints fans who did stay in the stadium and support the team. It's not easy in that situation. So well done to them. And hopefully the only way is up, right, guys?
Absolutely, we love that positivity. The only way is up, and as you say, we're very much looking forward to seeing you in person next weekend. Joe Dean, always fantastic to have your input on the show. Can't have been easy to talk about that one, but as we say, we move onwards and upwards. So an afternoon to forget here at St Mary's Stadium, but as we have just mentioned, our attention does shift to next weekend when we welcome Arsenal to St Mary's Stadium. That is another Saturday 3 o'clock kickoff, so we will be live on Saints Live from 1:45. Bye for now.
Take care.